Good morning and welcome to the American School of Hypnosis live stream. And today we're going to be speaking about contacting spirits. We're going to be going beyond the veil. And the purpose of this video is to help to explain to you a lot of the ins and outs. There's a lot of questions about contacting spirits. We're going to go through them, and I'm going to tell you some pretty amazing case studies afterwards, some actual experiences when we've done this that people have gone through. So if you have questions about contacting spirits while I'm live, go ahead and let us know in the comments. I'll try to get to those, and otherwise go ahead and put them in the comments below after the video, which will give us more to speak about in a future one. And for those of you who are brand new to our live videos, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below so you can be notified when we do future live ones, so you can participate, and click on that bell. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I have a list of questions that a lot of people ask having to do with contacting spirits or crossing over. And the first one is, can you do it? Can you do it? Not me. I can do it. Well, first of all, anyone who wants to contact spirits, wants to cross over, can do it. It's something that you can do easily through a lot of different venues, but we use the venue of hypnosis, of suggestion. And the way we do that is through a hypnotic session. We bring you back in time, and I guess you could say, bring you back in time, but we bring you to the theta and maybe borderline theta, delta, right around their brainwave state. Remember, past life regression, you don't have to go all the way to delta. Actually, even in alpha theta, you can reach it, because it's just memory. It's going back in time, long term, so more theta than anywhere else. So can you do it? Of course you can. Okay, all you need is a desire. And oh, here's a big one I always get. Is it real? Okay, is contacting spirits real? Did I actually see that, or did I imagine that? And the answer to that is yes. You actually saw that and you imagined it. Now, why? When I say the word imagine, I'm not thinking fairy tales, okay? I'm looking at imagination as a different thing. First of all, in the conscious world right now, you have 5 senses. I always miss one, but sight, sound, touch, smell, and feel. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I got them all. Those are your 5 senses that you have now that operate in this world, okay? Your busy senses. In the other world, in the subconscious, taste. Raluca just reminded me, taste, not feel. Okay, so taste was the 5th one. And on the other side, okay, the 6th sense is actually your imagination. Your imagination fuels the travel. Imagination is key to everything. Matter of fact, whenever you get a thought, you have to focus on that thought and imagine it before you can create that thought and make it reality. So your reality here, everything you're seeing, from my microphone to the pictures behind me, the television set, the plant, my glasses, everything was a thought first that was imagined. Then it became this reality. So everything you're seeing is a second-hand representation of imagination. Imagination is the key. So think of it. When you imagine something, let's say I imagine this Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup, okay? In the imagination, the person that came up with it was thinking, oh, I want to create a cup, and it's going to be a wonderful cup. It's going to be a great cup. There's going to be rainbows coming off of it and music coming out of it, and it's going to morph into different pictures. And so you have all this imagination, because imagination is limitless. But then when you get to the real world and you create it with your 5 senses, this is the best you come up with. So this is a secondhand representation of the thought that I had of the cup. And it's nowhere near as great. It's usually kind of, because with the tools, we just have so many things we can use. Even the things that you say have to be thought of, and most people will think of them and imagine it before they say it. At least most people should think first, okay? So for instance, I know this woman who got married, and she was telling me, she says when she said her vows, okay, she really thought about her vows and imagined what she would say when she was up there at the pulpit, and she had all this wonderful things to say. Her husband said his vows, they were beautiful, and she wanted to say something just as good, and she said, ditto. What is that? You see what I mean? I mean, when it came out, it seemed so big in her head. When it came out, ditto, from everybody else's point of view, is like, huh? Wow, what a watered down version. So think of that imagination, which is wonderful, is what is serving you, which is guiding you on the other side. You imagine it, you create your own reality. Just like you create your reality here, it takes a little longer. On the other side, you just imagine it, it's there. So if you want to see someone, you imagine who you want to see. You're attracting that entity or whatever it is through your mind, okay? Because you are connected to the universe. When you get to a certain level, universal consciousness, it's oneness. We're all one. So now I gave you kind of like I guess you could say, the in-depth version of what's going on the other side. So is it real or is it imagined? Yes, it's both. How does it work? Well, I pretty much explained that. Okay, in an actual session, what we do is we actually, if it's a group session, which I do mostly, is I have people, I'll sit down wherever they are, if they're online and they're comfortable seat in their home, and I guide them through using suggestion, helping them to relax, to get to a certain level of openness, bringing them to theta, and then just guide you through with questions. I ask, where are you now? Cross over, invite somebody if you want to speak to, and who are they? Have some time to speak to them. So whether it's a spirit guide, or whether it's a relative, whether it's a loved one, whether it's just Henry David Thoreau, because you want to speak to an author about your future as an author, it could be anyone. Okay, so that's pretty much how it works. Who can I speak to? Oh, this is the interesting thing. When you're contacting spirits, you can speak to anyone who has lived, who has passed on, who even lives now or hasn't lived yet. Because in the subconscious, in the true subconscious, there is no time. Past, future, present. Past and future was created by us in the conscious mind. The subconscious, there is only now. So whether someone's living, has lived, or is going to live, it doesn't matter. It's all happening now in the mind. And you're going to see in one of the stories I'm going to speak to you about, we're going to be talking about some of the contacting spirit, but we're going to be speaking to you about, I'm going to be telling you about a couple people who contacted past spirits, but one who contacted a spirit of somebody in the now, which is pretty interesting. It has quite a twist to it that you're not going to expect. Well, now that I said that, you probably will. So how do you meet somebody? Well, one of the things we do when we contact spirits is we create a spirit room, which is a place you created in your mind, a safe spot where you can sit down that's comfortable, and much like this room with a nice chair and another chair to interview someone, or a couch, whatever you like. And you invite them to come in. You hear a knock at the door, open the door, they come in, sit down, and they speak to you just like they would in your own living room. Or sometimes we might even have you meet somebody outside on the street, like with a spirit guide. Sometimes we'll do it on top of a bridge, and a nice little quaint bridge going over a babbling brook. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. So pretty much what you do is you invite them. They come over and they speak to you. Now, keep in mind, when you're asking advice from someone like this, they might not always say what you expect them to say. I know one time this gentleman, the reason I said Henry David Thoreau, this gentleman wanted to be an author, and he invited the spirit of Henry David Thoreau to come in and asked him what he thought of him being an author. And Thoreau basically said, don't give up your day job. You're not very good. So he might not say, or they might not say what you expect them to say. But then again, if you invite your next door neighbor to come in and speak to you, they might not say what you expect them to say either. Okay, sometimes they're brutally honest, but that's the whole idea of getting wisdom or knowledge or, any kind of information from someone. You want their help because you don't know it yourself. You're looking for another opinion. Why do it? Why would someone want to cross over and contact spirits? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. One, which we're going to speak of in one of the scenarios I'm going to talk about that's happened. One is to get closure. Someone passed on and you just didn't have closure. Things were left open. You don't know what happened. So to get closure. Number two is to maybe ask some questions. I know one person wanted to know, Dad, where'd you leave the key to the safe? We can't get in. It might be an important question like that. If someone just passed on and you wanted to know something about them or why they did this or felt that way. Another one is to get guidance or wisdom, like with Henry David Thoreau or with anyone. If you want to speak to Edison, if you're an inventor, so to gain wisdom. And it doesn't have to be someone famous. It could be anyone. Another one, which is probably what most people do it for, is just pure curiosity, to see what it's like, to invite anyone just to see, just to experience it, to see what's going to happen. And the final one is to expand your mind, to become enlightened, because if you're getting wisdom from the other side, it can really change your life. If you want to know what's happening with, what's going to happen with your business, what you should do with your life, should you do this, major decisions. That's one thing. Another thing you can use it for. Okay, so there's a lot of different areas that you can use it in. Now, those are pretty much the ins and outs. If you have any more questions, like I said, go ahead and ask them in the comments. But I'd like to tell you a few stories, just a few of the ones that, some of them that I experienced that were pretty memorable. One of them, this one here, was actually two of these that I'm going to be speaking to about were in the same group that we did. I actually did a group past life regression session at the local high school. We rented a room and had a lot of people come in. Now, this room was kind of neat. It was a good sized room, and it had like a big conference table, and we had about maybe 20, 25 chairs going around it. So it was quite full. And I sat down at the head of the table, did the session. Everybody sat, and they were all in nice, comfortable chairs like this one. And everyone sat and went through their own experience. Now, I did a group one, so I did it one way, and everybody would answer their own questions in their mind. And then afterwards, we went around the room, and everyone told what they experienced. Now, the two people that sat down in the far left-hand corner was a grandmother and a granddaughter. Okay, so two generations apart, granddaughter, grandmother. And when they came back, they started to tell the story. The daughter said, well, she says, I sat there and, I wanted to speak to Grandpa. She goes, and Grandpa came in and I asked him some questions and it was great. She didn't really get into what she asked him, but she said, I asked him questions. We spoke for a while and he told me he was proud of me and this and that. And he seemed like he was in such a hurry, like he had to go somewhere. So I said, bye. And she said, and the rest of the time I just sat there and waited till the session was over. And then the grandmother, when it got to be her turn, she says, I sat there and waited for the longest time. I thought nothing was going to happen. Wasn't going to see anything. And all of a sudden, my husband showed up and we started talking. We had a great conversation and he left, which was kind of funny. He went to see her, then he went to see her. I'd never had anything like that happen before. It was kind of weird. All I could think of is, wouldn't it have been great if I was just doing the two of them together and we were doing it out loud so I could hear what was going on and I can bring them together in the same place and have all three of them speak at the same time. Could it be done? Why not? You never know unless you try it. I mean, they're doing it one-on-one. They're doing it at the same time. Why not do it together? So that was a pretty interesting scenario. And now on the other side of the table was this woman who had lost her son. And she lost her son probably about a year earlier. And when I say lost him, he had gone out one day and never came back. She had no idea what had happened. They had a good idea that he was dead, but they didn't know why, how, or anything. So she says, and I remember during the session, while I'm always watching everybody to make sure they're all doing okay, this woman started crying. You could see the tears just coming down during, she wasn't sobbing out loud. So it wasn't interrupting with anyone else, but I could see her crying. So I knew that there was something going on. And she says, his son was about maybe 19, 20 years old. She goes, I was in the kitchen working and my son all of a sudden came running into the kitchen and, like he normally did, opened the door, kind of burst through, run into the kitchen, run across the kitchen, opened up the refrigerator door, grabbed the soda and says, "Hi, Ma, just wanted to let you know I'm okay. Have a great day. I got to go now." And he turned around and left. So she got that closure that he was okay wherever he was. Of course, he was passed on. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have seen him in that scenario. But she said it made her feel so wonderful. She felt such a relief, a weight coming off her shoulder that she finally had closure that he was okay. That was one of the stories that, again, it went on a little bit longer than that, but by the time she told it, there wasn't really a dry eye in the room. So you can see it can be pretty powerful to hear all these different things going on. Now, the last one I want to speak to you about was a young lady that I hypnotized in Romania, and this was quite a few years ago. I'd traveled the world, done this in Romania and Russia and different places. And this young lady was, I think at the time she was probably about 18 or 19. And I brought her into contacting spirits crossing over, and she wanted to speak to the spirit of her father. Again, a closure issue. She didn't know what had happened to her father. She grew up without him ever since she was really, really young. He left, and they never knew it. She never knew what happened. Her mother said he died, and and she kept on saying that he was close to her and all this, the normal things you say. Anyways, she wanted to speak to her father. So this scenario, I remember, was quite different. We created a room, and the father came to the room and knocked on the door and wanted her to come out instead of, it was like the whole rigmarole. But anyways, we finally got it settled in and I was doing a lot of talking with her because this was a one-on-one. Okay. So I knew what was going on. So finally we get to the point where she was speaking to the father and asking him, what was going on and where he was and all this. And he was telling her that he was fine and that he was living in another location, another area of the country, and he was checking on her and kept up with what was going on in her life. He was there usually like at graduation. He was hiding in the back watching, and this plays games and this stuff that she played, sports games she was watching. And she was shocked because listening to all this means that he wasn't dead. Because remember, there's no such thing as past or future in the other side. So not only can you contact the spirit of someone who has lived, but you can also contact the spirit of someone who is living, which she found out in this session that he was. Quite an eye-opener. So she asked questions, and he was telling her about how, his mom and him had split up. Her mom and him had split up, and they felt that it wasn't a good idea that he became or stayed part of her life for, who knows what kind of reasons of, issues that they were having, personal issues. So he respected that and he kept a distance, but he kept an eye on her. So he knew what was going on. So of course she come out of hypnosis quite bothered and upset and crying. And she says, "I'm going to confront my mother tonight." And she did confront her mother. I found out later on that the father was indeed still alive. They were divorced, and she wanted him to keep away, and that she found out from time to time he was keeping an eye on her and watching. So quite an eye-opener. You think someone's dead, and then you find out he's actually alive and watching, and to find out that way. So that was one of the, I guess you could say, oddest or most different type of contacting spirits that I've had. Like I said, we've literally done thousands of these in groups and individuals. And just like with a past life regression, going around the room and speaking to them individually and hearing them all tell their stories, that's one of the most interesting part of the entire process, because you're getting to see everything that happened during that one session that you did. So groups can be really amazing. So that's what I wanted to speak to you about today, to let you know how contacting spirit works, how you can do it. You can do it for all kinds of reasons, and some of the brief stories that that I went through. So you can see that what you could do, that it is possible. Now, if you'd like to learn how to do contacting spirits like this, we have scripts that you can use, how you can do it for yourself, how you can do it with your family to get closure, to just experience it. Okay, we do have an upcoming hypnosis certification course, and it's coming up real soon. So if you click on the link below here, below this video, you'll see what the next date is. We do have an early bird special going on right now. And in this course, you're going to be learning how to be able to hypnotize virtually anyone for anything that they can experience, anything that need, because anything you can do normally, you can do better with hypnosis. So in addition to the, the healing and the clinical and the non-clinical type things, the smoking cessation, we're also going to be teaching lots of things having to do with metaphysics, including past life regression, contacting spirits, both individual and groups, future life progression, parallel life contact, and even life between lives. Some people call that home, where you go between each life from one to the other. That place of reflection, that place of just, it's amazing, pure subconscious or universal consciousness. So to find out more about that, we are accepting reservations right now. So it's going to be filling up real quick. Click on the link below this video to see the dates, to sign up, and to get the information on everything we're going to be teaching. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing your stories, if you have any, and your questions of things that you've experienced. And I hope to see you at our next upcoming class. Have a great day. Bye-bye.